Tonight I want to talk about one thing that's very basic, going over wiring. The thing about wiring is it's very necessary to remove exposure. This is set up for a standard MOSFET. Got the long wires ready to be MOSFETted, and then the Dean's end. Everything looks good. You got the nice heat shrink, nice Deans, nice trigger contact set up here with liquid electrical tape. You've got heat shrink on the motor is soldered. All this stuff looks great. The wire looks good, but it means nothing if you do not prep it properly. Here we've got some cuts. I've cut this whole section out because it's really not needed, and it makes it easy to drop this in and take out. I'm also cutting away, you can see partial, I've already started, this area right here, the selector plate. That's not necessary because this is not does not have any contacts here, and the selector plate doesn't. And this type of gearbox uses a dual selector. On the other side is for the safety, this right here. So what that means is that this is really not necessary other than to help glide across the gearbox on the other side. I'm going to remove so that it can't cut down on this, and I've already removed enough here that this makes it easy to drop in. If you don't do these things, you create either the MOSFET or gun, I guess the gun, let's just say, could automatically start shooting. You could have a short. These are things you need to look out for. Same with the motor. Sometimes ends of the motor plate are touching this, or as this rotates it hits into something and it starts scratching, and then that becomes exposed. You'd never want both sides to be exposed, black and red. The reason for this is because that can create a short. Your fuse can blow. I want to talk about areas around the gearbox like this. That's meant for a wire to go through, but obviously that's not small enough for this wire thickness. This is 16. And on the opposite side, right here, same thing. There's not enough room to put a wire through there. So when you do this, do it the right way by taking the motor out and then grinding down this area. Don't just grind it down and get particles everywhere. Same with the gearbox. Take the parts out. Take this time to basically work very good on your AEG. You want to take the time, because if you don't take the time, what happens is you seriously suffer. You're going to get your fuse blown, your LiPo blown, your gun's going to shoot automatically. You're going to spend more time just trying to go through these issues and debugging instead of just looking at everything and seeing, okay, I need to cover this exposure here. I need to remove some metal here. There's no way I can leave wires touching here because they rub against this, or something like that, as an example. Anything as far as where the wires go. So this can be in the handguard, this could be anywhere else. You just want to be on the lookout for that, and just do it. I mean, there's no excuse really to not do it. It's just like saying, hey, on a comparison, I don't want to learn how to shim ever, but I want to be able to drop in 13:1 ratio gears, or 14:1, or 10:1, or make a DSG gun. You have to just do it. And in this case, if I didn't do these things, when this person gets this back, they're not going to be very happy because the gun would not work properly. So that's the little bit of advice on this, is to make sure you just do it. I know it takes a little bit of time, there's this or that, but there's nothing better than a full-fledged, almost maybe even just say perfect close to, because people say you can't have perfect, but near perfect AEG. You make your AEG near perfect. When you do this, not only does your gun last longer, but you don't have frustration on the field. You're not shooting at somebody and your lipo starts on fire, okay? Just giving a freak example. Or maybe your gears clash or your piston's blown. You take time out of your day when you work on your AEG or you're building something for somebody. You take all that time and you look at everything, and the wiring cannot be misplaced. You cannot just... Another thing is, please don't be lazy. I see this quite often in the gearbox. People, either they have very poor soldering skills, or they just don't want to take the parts out to solder them properly. They don't want to make the connection. They can't make the right length of wire. They don't know where it's supposed to fold properly. I've noticed that people that make the wire for their motors, especially version 2, they cut them too long. And then, that's an issue in the gearbox, or the pistol grip, excuse me. The pistol grip, because the wires cannot properly push down and close without getting clipped. In a version 2, it's a little bit more, I would say, crappy, worse off. Because you really don't want to solder these motor connectors on a version 2. It's a pain in the ass to have to keep undoing it. People say, well, it's simple, but if you need to get in your gun quickly, it really sucks. So you can't do it on the field, I guess, unless you brought a portable. But what I'm trying to say here is take the time to do it right. That's what needs to be done. In this case, this person messaged me and said that they didn't care how long I took on this, and I've been working on this every day too. I work on everything that I can every day, and this particular person said that they I'll just wait for it, and then really there's no talk back and forth about this one, because he already has a working AEG, and I've worked on his AEG before. So in this case, he already knows the time that's going to be taken, and so this kind of stuff is just necessary. I'm not going to slop around and just quickly do it. Here, we're done. You need to have the tools, the experience, and not to be lazy about it. You need to just do it right, proper. And at the end, you get a really reliable AEG. I mean, these wires aren't coming off. They're soldered very well. They're not going to be clipping. They're not going to be creating any issue. So that's what's to be said on the electrical things. You need to know your batteries as well. You need to know information about lipos, but just make sure you take the time to do things properly. And wiring is something you should not skimp on, just as shimming. Should not skimp on really anything when you're working on an AEG.